I've got all my art supplies out here, and oh my gosh, I need to take really good care of them so they can last a long time. And so let's get started. These are my oil pastels, and if you have oil pastels, what I've done is I've just taken them out of the little box they come in, and I found kind of a nice container with some hard sides to it so that my oil pastels will be safe. They won't, well, here's something. They're round and they're gonna roll off the table. And sometimes when they roll off the table, they end up on the floor. And when they end up on the floor, you can step on them, and that's kind of the end of the oil pastel. But it also might really mess up if you have a carpet or something like that. Most of these are washable. Another little hint about oil pastels, if they break, that's absolutely fine. You can peel them, and then sometimes you can, a little piece of paper here. If I want a sharp point on my oil pastel, what I can do is I can just find a piece of scrap paper and sort of kind of wear it down on one side, kind of turn it, wear it down on the other side, and eventually I'll get like a little point. So those are some kind of hints to take care of the oil pastels. Another one, your watercolors. Now these are my well-used watercolors. And what I like to do, this is my storage area, and this is of course my mixing area, my mixing tray. And sometimes I'll take a paper towel and kind of clean these out if they get a little bit too sort of messy. And sometimes I'll clean this off, but sometimes I like to save the paint that's there. When I'm done with my watercolors, what I usually do is I like to leave them open for about a half an hour or an hour so they can dry out, and that really helps make them last a long time, and then I can go ahead and snap it shut. Some other hints here, my pencils. Now I probably have a few more pencils than you do. When I go to sharpen them, now not everybody has the awesome pencil sharpener, but if you don't, a regular pencil sharpener, one of those little ones that you can twist works fine. The kind that you use your hand, to actually grind the pencil, you can do that. Try to keep your pencil from dropping on the floor, because your pencil has the graphite or the lead in it. It's like in a little tunnel down the middle of your pencil, and if you drop it on a hard surface, that lead or graphite can kind of crack, and so sometimes you'll go to draw and it may crumble kind of at the end, so careful that way. I like to store my pencils with the points up, and that way they stay kind of sharp. If you don't have a container like this, you can use an old can that maybe some soup came in, or beans, who knows. And also another one would be a jar, and which reminds me, my brushes. Here's another hint. Try not to store your brushes upside down like that. Your brush has, and I know we've talked about this before, it has a handle, it has a collar, and then of course it has the head or the bristles. If you store it upside down, you can start kind of wearing on the point of your brush, even if it's a bigger flat brush, the same thing. So always store your brushes after you wash them, and sometimes you can kind of put a point back on them if you'd like. With just kind of by using your hands, but always store your brushes with the bristle ends up. Even when you're painting, instead of putting them in the water like this, which makes me kind of crazy, just put them down on your work surface, and they'll last a lot longer that way. We've talked about this before. These are my go-to containers. I can put, if I'm using a certain set of colors of oil pastels, I can put them in my tuna fish can, or I can put water in it when I'm doing the watercolor. And the nice thing about these is they're always available, and they won't break if they fall on the floor, and they won't spill a lot of water if they spill. So let's see, I also have some other items. Oh, my crayons. Now actually I've managed to keep my crayons pretty nice in the box here. You can store your crayons in the box, but if you'd like, you can also get a container like this. You can find an old food container, anything like that, wash it out, and put your color crayons in. Another little hint, try to keep these out of the sunshine, like next to a window, or even if they're outside, try to make sure that they're in the shade. Same with oil pastels. These can melt, and when they melt, they're really hard to use later, and the color just is kind of never the same. Now my color crayons are a little bit out of order, and I know that there are some students who love to take this whole thing and make it in perfect order, but this just is another way to kind of help with that. I've got the other things that we occasionally use, like a sponge for special effects, Q-tips, and I can always store those in a little Ziploc bag, and that way I won't lose them. My glue sticks, I always put those covers back on. I talked to my kids about that when they were growing up. Same with my Scotch tape, just kind of make sure that you've got everything kind of together. You can store them if you don't have an art area in your house. You can put them in a basket. You could find an old shoebox and put your items in that, or just a good old cardboard box. One of the things that's really helpful I found is if you take care of your stuff and you put things away and kind of clean up, the next time you go to work, it's going to be really easy. You'll know where everything is, and your materials will last a lot longer. And I know there are some grown-ups that get a little worried about younger kids, like preschoolers or kindergartners or first graders, using things like oil pastel or watercolors. But I just want to say that anybody who's old enough to wrap their hand around a pencil or a brush or an oil pastel is old enough to know how to take care of their stuff. So thank you so much for listening. I know this was kind of maybe a little bit boring, but I hope it kind of helps. You take care.